Hi and welcome. This week I'm going to be fitting a hydraulic conversion kit to my Benelli TnT. Now the TnT has quite a heavy clutch, and as I've got older I certainly have felt it more. It wasn't quite so bad when I bought the bike, which was in around 2007. Yes, I've had it that long. It's supposed to reduce the pull between 30 and 35% over the cable operated clutch. Now you can get the slave cylinders and the kits from a couple of different sources. I bought mine from Maniac Motors in Germany, and I'll put a link to them in the description below. Now before we start stripping off the cable operated clutch, I'll just go through what's included in the kit. Well, here's everything that you get in the kit from Maniac Motors. You get a clutch master cylinder. The one thing I did notice is that this master cylinder does not have a fitting for a mirror, unlike the cable operated clutch on the bike, which means that if you do buy a kit like this, you'll need to come up with an alternative means of mounting your mirror. I'll probably go with bar end mirrors on my bike. The other thing I noticed, of course, is that the lever on this master cylinder is black, whereas the one on the brake lever on my bike is just an anodized aluminium. So I'll need to match those two, probably with a CNC machined levers at some later stage. You also get a braided line. This is the clutch slave cylinder. It's a CNC machine part, and it is certainly nicely made and quite lightweight too. And you also get all the mounting hardware, the clutch switch, mounting bolts, crush washers. There's a couple of O-rings here that I'm not quite sure where they go yet, but I'm sure once I get the cable operated clutch off and start fitting this, they'll probably be fairly obvious. Well, taking this all off was fairly painless. The only thing I did notice is that the micro switch on the clutch lever actually doesn't terminate in a plug like this. It goes straight into the wiring loom from the connector on the micro switch. So at some point when you finish your installation, you're going to have to connect this cable onto this hydraulic micro switch. Whether you use a connector like this, I've actually got some of these connectors. I actually picked up some off eBay some time ago for another project, so I'll be able to make up a matching plug that'll go into this socket. But you could use anything that you like. Just be aware that once you change this, you won't be able to retrofit the old clutch cable without modifying this again. So if it upsets you that you're going to be changing it from stock, you might have to come up with some other alternative. For me, I'll just fit one of these connectors on the end of this cable, and I'll be ready to go. So next part of the job is to fit the slave cylinder. Next thing we need to remove is that little ferrule in there, so I'll just take the clutch rod out. put that to one side. I'm just using these pair of pliers with some tape on it as soft jaws, which aren't working particularly well. And just rotate it a little bit, and that's it. Now we'll just clean out this area with a cotton bud. I've just put a bit of WD-40 on the cotton bud to pick up the grease and dirt. So it's all nice and clean. And that should be about it. Now I have run into a little bit of a problem with the bottom of the slave cylinder. There's a nubbin on the base here that is fitted into a recess in the crankcase. The actual clutch rod goes around that. And this is designed to be an interference fit. Really that's there to prevent oil from seeping out around the clutch rod. Now the opening or recess in the engine measures around 10 millimeters exactly, whereas this measures 10.06 millimeters, which I think is a little bit too big a difference for an interference fit. I could actually heat up the crankcases with a hot air gun and try and fit this, but I suspect that it would certainly make it difficult to remove down the track. So what I've done is I've linched this down to around 10.02 millimeters, and that should make it a lot easier to fit. I will probably put a little bit of Loctite on there just to assist in the sealing. But now that we've got that little problem out of the way, it's time to move on to fitting the slave cylinder. Okay, now I've put a little bit of grease in the opening here and a little bit of lightweight thread locker Loctite on the outer there, and I've also put a little bit of Loctite in there. So I'll just fit that, push that in. And I'll just fit the clutch rod. Just put a little bit of grease on the end here. Well, we've hit pretty much an insurmountable problem in this, what I thought was going to be a simple installation video. One of the holes in the slave cylinder doesn't match up to one of the threads in the crankcase. I have no idea why, whether this is a variation between models of Benelli that has caused this, or whether there's an error in the CNC programming. I'll have to email the supplier, Maniac Motors, and find out what their opinion is of this current problem. So while this started off as a simple task, this has certainly turned into a more entertaining video than I expected. And it's become a part 1 rather than a complete video. Hopefully there will be a part 2 and I can fit a hydraulic clutch conversion kit to my Benelli TnT, but who knows. Anyway, I'll catch you next time.